Alright, hello everyone. I'm Gabe, and today we're here for another episode of Gabe in Politics. Today, I'm sorry I wasn't able to make a video on Friday. Unfortunately, my we were at a event at the time, so I had to go at the time. And but yeah, today we're gonna be making a new episode. First, let's talk on a few things. One, I think I've been getting lots of controversy between this is what I've been seeing so far from the trans community. I think overall, from what I've been seeing, it's very much opposing in a way. Which I'll tell you this: overall, how the trans community is responding to how we are responding to it, it's literally something that doesn't make any sense. Overall, to say this, they're the ones making themselves look like the monsters by framing out other people, calling Republicans, calling conservatives Nazis, and just saying all of this. It's insane at this time. I think overall, until we can really get this together, until we can actually get our stuff together, there's gonna be a point where we're gonna have to say this, like eventually this group is the problem. And I'm not saying that by any chance I'm involved with that. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that the trans community has gotten so bad to the point where we're forcing children into this, that children don't even get a say into this. If you are a parent and you say that your baby's gender neutral, your baby doesn't even have the chance to speak about that. Your baby doesn't even have a chance to say whether or not they want to be, well, not if they want to, what they're assigned with. And that's where I think overall I agree with many of Charlie Kirk's debates there. What is a woman? What is a woman is a simple question that is simply asked. If you like, and that's where we come to the point as a society where we have to stop thinking about social concepts and actually think about reality, pro reality. And if a baby has different reproductive systems, so like if it's a male reproductive system, then that's a male. If it's a woman reproductive system, then that's a woman. That's what we have to get straight instead of just saying, "Oh my baby's gonna be this, oh my baby's gonna be that," without even really looking to see what is. And overall, trust what the doctors say. Listen to what the doctors say. Listen to that, because we cannot force our children, and that's where there's so much tension between it. We are forcing pronouns. We are forcing this sort of modern day equal rights where today even modern that's why sometimes I don't wear some of the ways we approach to modern day equal rights. Modern day equal rights results to preventing freedom of speech and preventing freedom of expression at times. Because one thing is that we tell people, oh, you can't say this word, or you can't say that, or you can't say that. Because one thing, it's like a white person saying that this percentage of black people have committed crimes in America. And immediately, some person, there's gonna be one person in there who's either white or black, will say in there, oh, you can't say that. It's a medium restriction. That's why I don't respond to much race. Like, I'll just tell the teacher if I'm being made fun of on my race, and that's where I will set the boundary. If it comes to the point where someone literally says prevents you from saying anything that disagrees with them, that is where you're gonna have to set some boundaries here. Because overall, that's where, and I think how I'm describing modern day equal rights fits with how I'm explaining how the trans community has been so far. Trans community has focused so much on forcing this ideology that anyone can be this gender, anyone can be that. we have to force our children into being just this gender neutral way and just forcing our children into this or that or that or that or this. We're forcing our children into that ideology, and it's disgusting, it's insane, it's bizarre. How can we do this to our own children? They shouldn't be forced to be this. Our children don't even get a say in it because I'm personally, as someone who is scared to speak up sometimes to adults, I'll tell you this. Children are scared to speak up to their parents. I'll even show you a percentage of how many children are scared to speak up to their parents. Let me explain to you. Give me a second. BB. Right here it says from a survey made by the Daily Mail, some 27% of children admit to keeping words to themselves. And that's what's the main reason why there's so many, like, runaways. 27%. And that's where children are going to have to be limited. And that's where the trans community is limiting student kids' voices, because children are scared to speak up to their families because they don't want to disappoint them. They don't want to make them feel like they dishonored them or anything. They don't want that. And that's where that's going to prevent those kids from being able to speak later. And that's when when they're older, they're going to have that meltdown. And that's where they're going to finally find out who they truly are. And I don't want that for our kids. I don't want kids to be known to have to grow up as known as gender neutral and then find out when they're older what gender they are. I want them to know immediately. I don't want I want it to be the signed biological gender assigned to these children, and I don't want that. I don't want any of this crap saying, "Oh, but it's my child, so I can choose." If it's your child, and you really care about their well-being, you would actually allow them to know what gender they are, and if you really want them to go to that level, then you can allow them to make that decision when they're older, not make the decision for them when they're younger. That is where there's lines you can cross there, and it's not crossable for my jurisdiction. Another thing right here. Research in Australia also shows that 40% of children felt uneasy talking to adults about safety concerns. That is where we have the line there, and that's why I'm continuing on with that, is where children are going to eventually have to feel like they have to be assigned with this for the rest of their life. It is blasphemy, it is something else. We shouldn't be forcing that on our children. That's the conclusion there. And for another thing, it can also, for these, liberals out there, if you're really claiming that you're trying to protect women and protect them, then you would ban transgender women from being in locker rooms with those women. You would ban those transgender women from coming into locker rooms with with those biological women who took their actual gender instead of just faking it. And I'll tell you this, there are many activists out there who've been literally detransitioned, and it's not just because of that. It's also even shown by research sometimes that these drugs can affect people, because as you already probably know, it's probably the known basis. Drugs can affect people. And that's the exact thing that could be happening with these drugs. Shows right here. From gender transition hormones they have potential downsides, including Femizin therapy risks like blood clogs, stroke, heart problems, gallstones, and liver issues. In masculine therapy, risks can be acne, weight gain, hair loss, high red blood cell count, and sleep apnea. Those ones, so it shows right here, even by that research made by Mayo Clinic, a UK study, and the National Institutes of Health. If they're able to make that claim themselves, then that shows that these therapies are very much dangerous, and these surgeries are dangerous. They can affect someone while they're older and develop more into it, and can cause. If you look right here, it shows so many risks, both cardiovascular, metabolic, and other ways, even fertility. It's gonna prevent those kind of ways. Go into that. It's gonna prevent those children from being able to really have right functional, because overall these people who are taking these are being forced by their parents. They're being forced by their parents to take these because their parents want to get with the generation, or they want to be more part of it by including their kids with it. So when their kids are involved with it, then it will affect them while they're older. And this is not just me yapping here. It is literally proven by National Institute of Health right here. Its own government website. It's the National Library of Medicine. Literally says gender affirming hormone therapy, physical and physiological effects, impact, and satisfaction. Right there. So I think overall to say this, I'm someone who will not judge someone on what they are. I will be someone to judge if you're forcing your children to do something that is going to affect their identity while they're older and affect their vision on the world, where they're not going to be able to think on their own, when they're not going to be able to learn on their own. And that's where kids will start to lose their way of life. Another thing is that, second, let's get into the topic of how we're calling Republicans and conservatives. So let me put into this ideology here. So, socialism. I've talked about it once before on one of my episodes. Socialism is a concept where everything is free, provided by government, while keeping the propaganda to convince those citizens that they're living in a good time, to also then become dictators and become basically rulers of the world. That was the ideology of the Soviet Union. And as we all know, if we've taken a history class before, the Soviet Union had been known as a communist land. Yet the people inside did not know it was a communist land. Because of that, that then led to the downfall of the Soviet Union because of its communist endowments. And socialism was the only thing keeping it up at the time. It was free providing and promising a sort of democratic land. That's exactly where we've seen it from candidates like Zoran Mandani. We've seen it from Biden. We've seen it from Kamala. We've seen it from Tammy Baldwin. We've seen it from multiple of these candidates. And if we're calling Republicans the ones who are Nazis, then how can we really state? How can we really make a statement against that? Because technically in history, Nazis were seen as dictators, communists, rulers. Soviet Union was too, and that's exactly how liberals take it. They take it with a grain of salt. They literally take it, and they know it. They acknowledge it. They've stated it before. They accept it. That's where I have boundaries when it comes to government. I think overall we should have a limited but effective government. We should not have a government where people that it should be where people are able to speak their concerns. The government are people who enforce law and should be able to speak concerns from the people themselves instead of just being from their own view, from their own policy. That's where I see it. And that's where we can set it. And that's where conservatives like Charlie Kirk, President Trump, I don't know about you, and other people have set the limit. That's where Charlie Kirk was a person who supported limited but effective government. He had supported it, he had been openly minded. If you go on the Turning Point channel, he has talked about it multiple times. He's talked about it many of times. And limited but effective government was the original look for it. Because when we had been basically the ones to kind of try to create some division between Britain and America, our original envisionment for it from the founding fathers was to make a democratic land, not democratic, I want to say democracy, where people can speak their concerns, where people have their own rights there, and government is more limited, and they have more laws that prevent them from doing illegal acts, and that everyone, even government, can be prosecuted at any time or anytime so. And that's where then socialism comes in, where we hide behind propaganda to then invite control of that, or claim that it's hiding government. That's hiding something. I'm not sure how to place it, but yeah, overall, that's where the propaganda comes in, and that's where we have to stop that propaganda. A third topic today. Ooh, I think we're blazing for these topics. Though, yeah, so continuing on. So I just want to continue on with the second one again before I go on to the third one, because I feel like I'm blazing for these real quick. If they're claiming that they're not Nazis, how can they use socialism as a way to continue its view? How can you continue something that was seen as dictatorship, as communist, as something that was opposing to democracy, while stating that you're making a better democracy and making a more stronger government by making a more, and that's exactly where socialism comes in, where you're making more programs, you're limiting companies so that your government, in that government's economy, only exists. And that's where taxing corporations comes in. They want to only make their government the only empowerment there, and that's where it will start. That's where it will start from, and that's where places like New York City are going to fall under socialism, and we must stop that. We must be able to oppose the communists and oppose to dictatorship. Now, a third thing, abortion. Now, I'm not someone to talk on these sensitive topics like this because I'm someone who has very much neutral views on these. But things like abortion, we have it so lucky in America, where to the point where we are just so ungrateful in our country. People whine when Roe versus Wade have been overturned. When in places like, for example, my country of ethnicity, Uganda, they make it illegal to have abortions, and 90% of abortions in America are not induced by, assault, or by induced by a person who is attempting to place harm or is attempting to do any of that. It is not in the case of illegal cases. It is in those cases where people decide to have those abortions because it's either sex selective abortions, it's either that they just don't want to have a kid at the time, or that overall they are just bored. So you're telling me, and this is where I think overall life starts at conception. Life starts at conception. That is where it starts from. That is where the foundation is. Liberals say this all the time, that it apparently like, they were literally implying the fact that babies are parasites. They've stated this before, that babies live off the mother. When you look right here, see, right here. Yes, it says a baby cannot fully grow outside the womb and survive. Yet, however, a fetus can sometimes be sustained outside the womb with significant medical intervention after a certain point of development. And when development happens, is by is as soon as the sperm cell hits the egg. That is where it happens. And there's been recent technology, if you don't know, in 2026 there is going to be a new artificial robot that will be able to make pregnancies, that will be able to carry a baby in the womb, in its own womb. And that life is able to survive outside the womb, even if it's embryo or anything. Because even in these even like in these researches, they sometimes have cases where they had reproductive cells combined, and they've been able to sustain the embryo together. They've been able to sustain that embryo so they can examine it and extract from it. That's how they've been able to do research for years, and that's how they've made so much progress on reproductive. Life starts at conception. Sperm cells contain. Look, let me even show you right here. It says right here, sperm cells contain stem cells. Stem cells are basically what helps develop. It's already in our body. It's something that practically. So it's basically kind of like the self-renewal. It basically is like regeneration in a way. It's kind of like it will develop over time. And those stem cells are in sperm cells. Those are what are in sperm cells. Yes, it might not be in mature sperm, but it's still in sperm. Stem cells, which starts development there. And as soon as the sperm in the egg reaches there, that is where it will start with the warfare to keep those cells. That will start cell division, and that is where it comes into light, where human development genes will start developing, and that is how it starts. That is how life starts. It has been shown by science. The egg is literally the foundation of human development. It's literally contained human development genes, literally designed for that. Now, believe me, look at it. Look at biology. Look at literally a research paper on biology. Let me show you. right here. An egg cell is a female reproductive cell that contains half of the genetic material needed for a new organism, 23 chromosomes, and provides them DNA. How is this proof here? It proves that the egg cell makes a DNA. It literally contains DNA, which has the same human geometry. It contains human DNA, and it will contain conscience when it's older. It will start to develop. It's kind of like, for example, let me say this. Let me think how to describe it. If you've ever made rock candy, it is where you have to first start the process where you're going to have to heat up sugar water. You're gonna have to put sugar inside some hot water, and then you're gonna boil it for a while, and you're gonna put it into a jar. You're gonna put it into a jar for a few days. It will start. It might take a while for it to crystallize, but then eventually it will start growing in crystallization. And then when you wait for it, then after a month or a few days, that is where you will see the most crystals, and that is where my explanation comes through. It takes patience. It takes formation. It takes time for that formation to happen, and that is where then life will happen. We might not see it on a personal level, but that is where life will start to happen. It might not be able to be seen by us, but it will start the molecular structure for it. It will be a molecular blueprint, envisionment of it. And that's where I stand for it. Guys, this isn't just me being a religious person, because I'm personally someone who is Christian. I'm someone who is a Christian, deeply deep in my faith. I'm a devout Christian. I've been saved again by Christ. I've been saved by Christ. I never took religion seriously at times. And you might say that I'm just being religious here. I'm basing this off of my own research, philosophy, and also on my own values too. And what I've seen personally from people, and we are tired. We are tired of having these abortions. In other countries, like what I did with the example of Uganda, it isn't legal to have abortions. It isn't legal to be homosexual. Those things are something that are not given to us in those countries. Yet in America, we have so much freedom to do those things. We have so much freedom and so much ability to have that access to those systems. And that's where we have to be able, as the people, to then eventually say that when there's enough. I am not someone who tries to spread hate here. This podcast's intention is to spread awareness to government and to spread awareness to others. And if you don't agree with that policy I have here, then click off the video. Click off of the video and just have a day. And think to yourself for just a moment. Am I basing it off of science, or am I basing it off of philosophy anymore? Now, fourth thing we're going to be talking about today. I'm not sure about the fourth thing. I guess the fourth thing we'll probably talk about, I don't know. I feel like the fourth thing, there's not too many fourth things we could talk about. Yeah, I think we're done today. I usually keep it free for one reason. We keep it free because I really don't want to do a whole hour video where you guys have to blatantly watch the video just to hear my point around it. But overall, I think keeping it the free issues is good, so I don't have to do too much editing on it, so I don't have to do yeah. But yeah, I think overall it's been pretty productive on how I'm doing it, really. But yeah. But yeah, I think overall, yeah. So I think the base of this episode off, just to give a whole summary on it, forcing our children into stuff, into woke propaganda, is not the right way. How to teach our children? We should be able to teach our children core values. We should be able to teach our children how to prepare to have a family like we are right now, and how to be great warriors in the kingdom of God. That's how we should be able to do things instead of just saying, "Oh, you can do this, Timmy. Oh, you can do that. Oh, you can do that." No, we should be able to set boundaries for our children, to be able to speak with our children, to allow them to spark debate in classes, and be able to also say this, and I'm saying this from my own heart. I'll say this, to be able to speak about how much in our country we are being able to get away with stuff recently. We've been able to get away with multiple things in our country. In other countries, people have been sentenced to death for it. People have been sentenced to life imprisonment for it. People have been publicly shamed for it. People have been told otherwise for it. That is where we have been able to have so much privilege in America. And that privilege is so deep. It's so deep. And I can't stand for it. I can't stand. If you're standing for having the privilege of that, well, other countries can't. If you're really saying that you people, that, I'm sorry to even say you people, that you truly support the thought of democracy in America, then you should be able to speak up. To speak up like how I am doing today. And speak up. Speak up. That's where I think overall I have so much disagreement with some liberals. They say that they are for the people while you are making a foundation where you're focused on socialism, which is a concept of communism, and focuses on the government being the main provider, or the government being the only economy. Overall, the government being everything, to be the only foundation, to be the only thing there. While the people are being silenced, the people are being prevented, and they're being deceived by these fake propaganda. And that is where we have to stop. We are not making another Soviet Union. We are not making another communist land in America. And that is what the founding fathers would have wanted for us to not be like this. They would want us to be a democracy. They would want us to be a democracy that allows respectful debate, and a democracy that's not only for the government but for the people. And that is where I set my foundation at. Limited but effective government is the right way out to go. And that is where I believe it goes. So yeah, that's how I'm gonna conclude the episode today. Thank you all for watching. I really work hard on these videos, guys. So while you can, please send these videos to your friends. Please send it to your neighbors. Please send it to your family. Please tell anyone about these videos. These videos are not just to spread my influence, but to spread what people have been fighting for the last few years, and that is where we must be law-abiding citizens, be able to speak of concern instead of just being silenced on it and just waiting for one legislator to do something about it, or waiting for one future president to do something about it. No, this is where you start. Your president is where you start your activism, and that is where you will start. That is where I think we should all start if we want to pursue representing our people and representing the democracy we should be going to. And that is where I think Congress, the executive branch, the judicial branch, should be able to put a foundation on is that, and that is representing democracy and allowing the people a voice. Thank you all. Once again, send this video out to anyone you can. Tell people about these videos, because we are just doing this for the money. We're not doing this for the money. We are doing this so that the people who've been asking for this for years are finally heard, and that our values as either Christians or people for family, or people who might be agreeing with my policy overall, that you guys can experience a better future for not only yourselves, but for your children, but for your future ancestors too. So thank you all once again. Hope you have a good night. This is Gabe signing off for the night. That's another episode of Politics.